What's going on, guys? Sharpshot here. Hope you guys are having a great day so far. So for today's video, I'm going to be going over the mid-chapter update for September 2021, and I'll also be going over Michaela Reed, who is the new survivor in DBD, and her teachables. And along the way, I'm also going to be giving my thoughts on the new updates, the buffs, the nerfs, and all that stuff. This is a loaded update, and there's so many new things coming into the game. There's a new survivor, like I said. There's the boon totems. There's a huge hatch and key nerf. There's a bunch of killer buffs and nerfs. There's a bunch of perk nerfs and perk reworks and add-on reworks. There's so much stuff to unpack, so without further ado, let's get right into the video. This is part 1 of 2 of this major mid-chapter developer update. As I said, they're updating 2 killers. The first killer they're updating is the trapper, as you see here, this beautiful trapper. And the second one is this really ugly spirit. So they're buffing trapper in a big way. Trapper's actually gonna be like pretty decent now. And then they're nerfing spirit. And hot take, I do not think she's a top 3 killer in the game anymore. Starting off, trapper, they noticed that the bear traps were really weak and he couldn't carry enough in his base kit without add-ons. So what they did is that now, instead of only being able to carry 1 trap at all times, he can carry 2, and he starts with 2 traps in the beginning of the trial. And also, if you guys didn't know, there was a randomized event that when you spawn in as trapper, you either spawn in with between 4 to 6 traps on the ground in the trial already, but now it's always going to be a consistent 6. So you're always going to have 8 total traps in your base kit. It used to be at minimum 5, so that's like a boost of 3. And then they reworked 2 of his add-ons. One of them is the tension spring that resets a bear trap 2 seconds after a survivor escapes from it, which is super useful. I actually think this is a very good add-on for him. That basically means every time he sets down a trap in a really good location that's high traffic area, it's always going to get reset on its own, and people are always going to get trapped by it. His second one is iffy. It's a little risky, but if you know how to use it, you can get a ton of value out of it. It's the trapper sack, which makes it so that every single bear trap in the trial you get at the base kit, and none of them spawn in the trial. So you get all 8. If you don't have any extra backpack add-ons, you get all 8 bear traps in your kit. But with that being said, once you place them down, you can't pick them back up. So unless you have really good locations for these traps, like if you're doing a basement trapper, this is like an unreal add-on. But other than that, it's kind of a risky, high risk, high reward. I really like the trapper update though. I think this trapper update is fantastic. Huge thumbs up to DBD for fixing trapper. It's been a really long time that people have been waiting for a trapper fix, and this is great. This is a good job, DBD. Moving on to spirit though, this is like the topic of the update. They nerfed her really badly. DBD thought that spirit was too good in that when she's phase walking, the survivors don't actually know if she's phase walking or faking it. So if she's just standing there at a pallet, for example, in a loop, you don't know if she's actually phase walking or not. And they wanted to remove that coin flip or that 50-50 chance in that chase. So now survivors get to know if the spirit is actually phase walking or not. Within 24 meters of the spirit, so in a really tight loop, you hear a directional phase sound, which means that you know A, that she's phase walking when you hear the sound, and B, you even get to hear from what direction she's coming from if you have a really good headset. And on top of that, if it's not in a high, like a tall grass area, and it's like a flat terrain, you also see her footsteps kicking up dust as she's in her phase walk. So basically, it now makes it so that even in a phase walk, if a survivor is really self-aware, they'll literally be able to loop the spirit super easily because they know exactly where she is in the phase walk. On top of that, they also added 2 pretty interesting add-ons. The first one being Wakizashi Saya, which makes it so that during her phase walk, you could press the activate ability and it returns her back to the husk. So this is a really cool mind game that you could pull a ton of really cool tricks on. You could go in the phase walk, and then as the killer's looping back around and you see them looping around with their scratch marks, you quickly phase back and hit them. So that's a really cool mind game. And then they added Senko Hanabi, I probably butchered that, but when she ends her phase walk, the husk where she started from explodes and blocks any pallets or any vaults from being vaulted by the survivors. This one's okay, but that's why it's only green. That was a really survivor-sided change. I'm kind of upset that they patched spirit because I think spirit was fine. Like, her being really strong was like good. It was really good competition. And honestly, those coin flips that they were talking about, is what made getting looped by Spirit so fun. Because it was like that mystery, like, oh my god, is she phase walking? Is she not? I had to take matters into my own hands and try and predict if she isn't or not. Now it just kind of sucks because you know when she's phasing and when she's not. So it kind of ruins the fun and it makes Spirit kind of shit. Moving on, they also are updating killer perks. Instead of like the tremendously or considerably greater wording they have in a lot of the perks, they made it so that they actually switch to the exact amount and like the exact percentage, the exact stat, because tremendously versus considerably is really vague. You don't really know how much bigger tremendously is from considerably. So they changed the exact value so you know exactly how much value you're actually getting to it. And then with that, they're also updating the descriptions for a ton of killers right here. That's like, I think like 10. They're going to be updating not only the descriptions of it, but they're going to update what the perks actually do. They're updating the ones that are the mostly unused add-ons, so the really unpopular add-ons for these killers, and the ones that are way too bad or way too good. So they're balancing everything. And then they're doing a ton of perk updates, and the biggest one is Vigil, which is Quentin's teachable. They're making it so that the increased recovery rate was originally 10, 15, 20 at tier 1, 2, 3, but now it's 20, 25, 30. So this is ridiculous. All status effects recover 30% faster at tier 3 now instead of 20. So if you have the exhausted status effect, you recover from it 30% faster. This perk is actually really good now. And they updated Babysitter to make it last a little bit longer. For the people, they make the broken status effect a little shorter so you could be healed quicker after transferring your health state to someone else. They updated Retribution, Blood Favor, Third Seal, Thrill of the Hunt, all positive updates. All these updates that they've shown here are all bonuses and pros. Like they buffed all of these perks. And then they also added which is a pretty cool update on DBD's end, is a kill switch. So you guys know when a map has a glitch, they take it out of the game to fix it. That's exactly what they're doing, but they're going to do it for items and characters.
4 to 6 days later.
This is part 2 of the mid-chapter update. The first big part is that they nerfed Deathslinger, which is pretty strange in my opinion. But the main things about Deathslinger now is that you can't shoot his chain shot unless you're fully scoped in. So you can't like do a quick scope. You have to be aimed in to actually fully shoot, which kind of really sucks. It makes him a lot slower. And they also increased the delay after canceling your shot before you can start a basic attack. So they made him slower again. And then they decreased the movement speed penalty while aiming down sight. So this is a little bit of a buff, but like this right here outweighs this part so much more. So much more. So now he's gonna be way slower, which really kind of sucks because I don't think he was that bad. I hate this so much. I think Deathslinger was perfectly balanced. I don't know why they nerfed him. I really think that was a bad idea. And then for the Plague, I think they low-key buffed her a little bit. Her infection is going to be worse. If you get infected, it's going to increase faster. When she cancels her purge, like when she cancels her throw up, she now like moves faster. Instead of like slowing down, she just moves like the same basically. So basically what they did is they made her quicker. So they made Deathslinger slower and they made Plague quicker, like in her movement speeds and stuff like that. And then they updated some of her add-ons, like her common ones. I think that's a good buff. She is actually the least played killer in the entire game. So buffing her was a good idea. And then Windows of Opportunity, there's no more cooldown, so you get to see the pallets everywhere. Repressed Alliance, it's easier to activate now. The time to activate it is less long. Built to last. Whenever you get into a locker for 12 seconds with an item that's depleted, you get 99% of its charges back. It's basically brand new, and you can do that 3 times. Right? It keeps decreasing by 33% every time you do it. You get almost, I think it's 297% use. Any means necessary, reduce the cooldown. No mither, this is kind of a big one, but it's still pretty useless. The Iron Wool portion of no mither, they increased it, and then they added additional recovery speed when you're reviving from the dying state. And then Mindbreaker, survivors who are working on a generator will suffer from the blindness in addition to exhaustion. Here's a big one, Hatch and Keys. Hatch will only spawn when there's 1 survivor left. So that criteria of having 5 events happen before it spawns no longer I just waved that shit around. There's no more criteria or anything. Basically, when there's one survivor left, the hatch will spawn and be open. You can only use keys to reopen the hatch if the killer had closed it, which is really strange. And another thing they did with the keys is that they also made it so that when you do interact with the hatch, there's a cooldown, so it slowly opens. It doesn't instantly open. There's like an animation, not like it instantly opens like it used to. The hatch and keys update, a lot of the survivor mains are pissed about this. There's like, oh my god, keys are useless, blah, 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 blah. But with that being said, you usually never get hatch because the killer finds it during the game, because they cover more ground than a single survivor does. And they just go to it once they kill the second to last survivor and they close it. And then I have to figure out the exit gate. But now that it only spawns when there's one survivor left, me and the killer will have an equal chance of finding it first. So technically the survivor has a even better chance of finding hatch than the last one alive than they did. I do agree that the keys kind of got ruined, but I don't know, I don't really use keys anymore. And then finally, the boon totems. We've been waiting for this for a long time. If you guys don't know what the boon totems are, it's basically a survivor hex totem. And the way you activate a boon totem is you go up to a dull totem, or you go up to a hex totem and then you bless it and it'll turn it into that blue boon totem. Like a hex, it's like a high risk, high reward. It's a really good perk when you're in the boon totem's range, is 28 meters, but the killer can snuff it and just like whoosh, and just wipe it out clean. And each survivor can only have one active boon totem at a time. So at max, you can have 4 boon totems and they stack right now. I think boon totems are a really cool idea and a really cool concept. But with that being said, it's really OP. And the fact that the killers have to worry about another thing in the trial, I'm not really a fan of that. I think this is way too survivor-sided. Having one boon totem active and that's it, I think it's completely fine. But having 4 active at a time, hypothetically, that's 4 zones where the survivors will benefit from a ton. Moving on, Michaela Reed. Michaela is a young mystic able to alter the trial with supernatural abilities. We got clairvoyance. So clairvoyance lets you activate it whenever you cleanse a totem. So you can activate it 5 times in a trial. And when you're empty-handed, you have no items, you can hold the ability button for 8 seconds. You get to see the aura of all the exit gates, generators, hooks, and chests within a 64-meter range. So it's basically Detective's Hunch. Instead of generators, it's for totems. All right, next one, the Boon Circle of Healing. When you hold the ability button, you bless the totem, and for 28-meter range, so when you're in the range of that totem, it's kind of fucking OP. Everybody inside of that range gets a 100% healing speed bonus, and they can heal themselves without a med kit. So you get self-care 100% faster. So it's like a we'll make it plus self-care. This is like by far the best perk. Moving on to Shadow Step. This one's really interesting. Same thing, it's a boon totem, so it has a 28-meter range and you have to bless the totem. Any survivor within the boon totem's range will have their scratch marks and aura reading hidden to the killer. And it lingers for 4 seconds when you go outside of the range. So basically, if you're looping inside of that range, the killer will literally, it's gonna be like a lucky break. So for example, like aura reading, like Scratch Mirror Myers, if he's in that range, he won't be able to see you. Let me explain why these are so OP. 1 in the trial, 1 range of 28 meters, pretty good. That's all right. But when you have 4 of these, okay, imagine 4 sections of the map that's 28 meters of range that you can heal yourself 100% faster. And the killer has to worry about that because literally if you enter that, you can insta heal pretty much. It's insanity. Look how fast we're healing. It's ridiculous. We're healing each 200% faster, because we're each healing 100% faster. So yeah, guys, that was the breakdown of the mid-chapter update and the new survivor. Let me know in the comments what you guys think about this update. Personally, I think this is DBD's biggest and best update in the entirety of its 5 years of existence. I think they did a pretty good job on this update. And yes, I think the boon totems are way too OP right now, but those can definitely get nerfed and be fixed. And I think the killer reworks for the most part are pretty good, aside from Deathslinger and Spirit. So yeah, guys, that's been the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. Leave a like and subscribe if you're new. This has been Sharpshot, and I will see you guys in the next video.